Let's talk about the astrology of appearance. So in astrology, the planets, the signs, and the houses all impact the way that we look. So I'm going to be going over that in this video. Now, the most significant houses when it comes to appearance, the first house. This deals in our actual physicality, our body, the way that we come off to other people, so how other people, their first impressions of us. Now, the other house that's really important is the fifth house. The fifth house deals in our self-expression. It also deals in our aesthetics, so some of our clothing choices, our stylistic choices. Now, another house that's really important, but kind of in a different way, is the sixth house. The sixth house is important because it deals in our health, which can definitely impact the way that we look. So the sixth house isn't so much about aesthetics, and sometimes it's not even about how we look on the outside, but it's really how our body functions, which can definitely impact the way that we look. So those are the houses I'm going to be going over, and I'm also going to be going over the planets and the signs. Now, it's worth noting too, these two planets are really important for the body. Mars, which actually rules over our body and our physicality, and Venus, which rules over style and aesthetics. So I want to start with Jupiter's influence on the body, and Jupiter rules over Sagittarius, so Sagittarius is kind of lumped into this. Now, Jupiter is the planet of expansion and inflation and abundance. However, astrology works on a spectrum. So the opposite of that would be deflation, it would be shrinkage. So Jupiter really has a big influence on the actual proportions of our body. So someone who has Jupiter in the first or a Sag influenced first house, this is pretty notorious for creating fuller features. So fuller chest, fuller bum, thicker thighs, fuller lips. It can also lead to a very tall stature, so someone who's quite tall. Overall, just kind of like a thicker body, a bigger body, but it's not uncommon for people with that Jupiter influence in the first to undergo a weight loss journey, or in some cases have trouble losing weight. They might gain a lot of weight, and then they reach that other side of the spectrum where they lose a lot of it. So Jupiter can create some weight gain, weight loss issues. It might even be, depending on what it's an aspect to, it might even be hard for someone to gain weight who has Jupiter in the first house, especially when it is accompanied by Pluto. So Pluto is a very extreme planet, and it deals in, it's just very severe. So it can create a lot of severe circumstances depending on the house that it's in. So if Pluto is in the first house, this is another one that can lead to a kind of challenging weight gain or weight loss journey. And the complication with Pluto really is the fact that it can create a very challenging psychological association with the body. So if you have a Scorpio ruled first or Pluto in the first, especially again, like I said, if Pluto is accompanied by Jupiter's presence, whether they're an aspect or whether they're sharing the first or the sixth, if Pluto and Jupiter are sharing the first to the sixth, that can lead to some, that can really lead to some weight loss, weight gain issues. And because Pluto typically notes kind of a thin, lean body, sometimes this is more indicative of weight gain issues. And this can lead to, in really severe cases, unfavorable eating habits, disordered eating, things like that. It can also lead to excessive working out. So someone who's like a workoutaholic. So the weight, maintaining weight, if you have Pluto and Jupiter together in aspect or in the sixth or first house together, that can be a sore spot for someone. So it's really important. You want to be mindful and pay attention to your body, respect your body. Don't give in to the extremism, basically. Jupiter and Pluto, independent of each other, they're already so extreme. So when they come together, it can be kind of a recipe for disaster if you're not using moderation and you're not being realistic and you're not being kind to yourself. It's worth noting too, you want to apply Mars, which is the planet of the body, our physical prowess. You want to apply Mars to these signs as well. So if you have Sagittarius Mars, for example, that can lead to fuller features, a taller height, things like that. Now, independent of Jupiter, Pluto on its own usually leads to a leaner body. These people might be short or average height, but usually the body is lean, more on the thin side, but there's still muscle there. It can also lead to darker features, so darker hair, brown eyes, and also usually there's a look of intensity. And this is usually kind of like a skeptical, watchful look. So their eyes might be like almond shaped or a little bit, maybe a little more closed. The eyebrows are also usually very significant. So this can note very bushy, dark eyebrows. It can also note very, very thin, almost kind of like that 90s look with the pencil where the eyebrows are just drawn on very thin. So you can see that here too as well. And this is going to apply to people that have Pluto in the first, Scorpio first, or in some cases Scorpio Mars. I wanted to say in terms of style and aesthetics, Jupiter or Sagittarius does very well with greens and jewel tones. So this can apply if you have Venus in Sagittarius as well, or if you just have prominent Sagittarius and you really want to embody the energy. The reason why green works very well is because when you think of green, what do you think of? You think of wealth, abundance, prosperity. So that's one reason why green is a really good color for Sagittarius. Jewel tones are also really good for kind of the same reason. They're very lucky. Jewel tones also personally for me kind of remind me of like fruit in a lot of ways, really colorful, juicy, ripe fruit. So that's really good for Sagittarius energy. It really brings out just that energy of abundance and prosperity. Now for the Pluto energy, the Scorpio energy, so if you have Venus in Scorpio, for example, very, very well with moody colors. So blacks, deep purples, deep reds like maroon, even like in some cases kind of like rusty reds. Plum, that's another really good one. So the blacks, the purples, and the reds, but specifically some of those deeper colors, very, very well for the Scorpio energy. Now, Moon's effect on the body is similar to Jupiter's in the sense that it can lead to fuller features with a lot of emphasis on the chest and the stomach. So especially if you have Moon in the first or a Cancer ruled first house or Cancer Mars, that's usually really indicative of having a larger chest and also having a really, really curvy body with emphasis on the hips. And that's just kind of because Moon represents motherhood, femininity. So you might have stereotypical, like birthing hips, which I know is a little bit, but it is what it is. And that can definitely happen here. Moon also leads to not just fuller features, but rounder features. So people have prominent Moon influence in the first house or Moon influence tied to Mars, like an aspect or Cancer Mars, like I said, usually have a rounder face. Their face is like moony. Their eyes might be very round as well. They might have really plump cheeks. So all of that can happen here. Moon's influence on the body can also make you very, very fertile. So you want to be mindful, especially for people that have Moon in the 5th house or Moon in 1st or Cancer 5th, Cancer 1st. Now I will say too, in terms of style and aesthetics, so this can apply to someone who has Cancer Venus, Cancer Mars, or if you're a Cancer Sun, Moon, whatever, you just want to embody and embrace that Cancer energy, you can draw more energetic, attention, but not attention in the sense that you want other people to look at you, but just more care, I guess you could say, to your chest and also your belly by doing like a belly piercing or a piercing here. So you can kind of adorn your body in those certain sweet spots, however way you choose. Even getting like a little tattoo around your navel, that would also be good. So that's just up to you. That's just like a little piece of advice if you're into the alternative look and you want to kind of adorn your body and those special parts in a way that is like meaningful and cute to you. It's worth noting too, the Cancer influence does very well with colors that kind of in a stereotypical sense represent babies. So like powder blues, baby pinks, pastels, and also whites. So creams and blush, very, very good for the Cancer aesthetic. Those more softer colors that you might see in a nursery, for example. Now, Venus is another one that can lead to a curvier figure. Usually people with prominent Venus, Libra, or Taurus influence, whether it be Libra or Taurus rising, Libra, Taurus 5th, Venus in 5th, Venus in 1st, usually notes a Venusian body. So an hourglass shape. It doesn't necessarily note like fuller features in the sense of like a larger chest or bum. It could, but there's usually more so emphasis on the actual shape of the body. Now, the other thing too with Venus influence is it usually leads to a more feminine appearance because it is ruled by Venus and there's, lust and love involved in that planet. So usually there's a more feminine appearance there. Now, the other important thing to note with Venus is it usually leads to a very symmetrical appearance. So there might be something about the face or the body that the symmetry, the sides are highlighted. So this could note having a gap between the two front teeth. This could note also just in general having a very symmetrical face, you know, it's very even. This could note hair parted down the middle. This can also note certain jewelry that adorns the face in a way that highlights the symmetry. So on one hand, this could note, you know, just like pierced ears. On the other hand, this could note a septum ring right in the middle of the nose. This could note dual nose rings. This could note the piercing that goes right here on the Cupid's bow, is it called? I don't know the name of the piercing, but that can happen here. And in a lot of cases, too, dimples. That's another prominent feature for people who have that Venus influence. Something that just highlights the face. Now, another thing, too, you might see is a belly ring or piercings here, piercings on the chest, something that kind of highlights the duality of the body, basically. It's worth noting, even though Taurus and Libra are both ruled by Venus, there's still some differences here. Taurus leans more in favor of having fuller features. So Taurus might, you know, have an easier time putting on weight, for example. Libra might be a little more thin. Libra also might be a little more tall. That can happen. Although both signs are still subjected to similar appearances, it's just each one kind of leans in favor of like a different direction. So worth noting there. Now, when it comes to the aesthetic and style of someone who has a lot of Venus influence, jewel tones are great, similar to that Jupiter Sagittarius energy, just because, again, Venus deals in materials, it deals in love, but it also deals in shmoney. So jewel tones can kind of represent that fortune, I guess, that abundance and that wealth. Another set of colors that works really well are pinks. So hot pink, light pink, any pink really, pinks are great. And now if you lean more into the Taurus side of that Venus expression, browns are really good, earth tones, olives, things like that. But pinks are really good for both the Libra and the Taurus. Now, Saturn's effect on the body is a little bit tricky. So Saturn usually leads to sharper and harsher features. So if you have Saturn in the first house, Capricorn first, Saturn in the fifth house, Cap fifth, or Cap Mars, for example, this usually notes sharper features. So this could note a really strict, sharp jawline. This can note really good cheekbones, like cheekbones that kind of sink in. Basically, it can just note features that you might find on like a model or just someone who has a really unique look to them. But Lord giveth, Lord taketh away. This can also note having some immune system issues. So if you have Saturn in the sixth or a Cap sixth, that can really kind of have a really dramatic and challenging effect on your health. And that can impact your appearance. So it's not uncommon for people who have prominent Cap influence or Saturn influence to have, for example, lower immunity, or have another big one is like having a really dry scalp, having an oily scalp, having some skin issues, having really dry skin. So you might find that your body in many ways is like parched. It's kind of reflective of that barren energy of Saturn. So that can happen here. So even if you have like the face of a model, you can have some other issues that you struggle with, especially pertaining to your health. And that's really going to be emphasized by Saturn in the sixth, but you can see this too if you have Cap rising, Saturn in first, Saturn in fifth. So it's just going to depend as well also what Saturn is in aspect to. Another thing with the Saturn influence is the teeth. So people with prominent Saturn or Cap influence, they tend to have really significant teeth, a significant mouth. Now this could lean kind of in a more unfavorable situation where you might have some dental issues, but it can also note just having a really gorgeous smile, having really bright, shiny teeth, having a pristine smile. In terms of aesthetics, because Saturn is a little bit barren, colors might match. So if you have Cap Venus, you might prefer clothes that are, you know, like blacks or whites, navies, khakis, grays, clothes that look like what you would be forced to wear to school or like a professional environment. So if you have, you know, Cap Venus, Cap Mars, Cap Sun, or a Cap fifth house, you might feel drawn to those colors. Now let's get into Uranus. So Uranus has a fun effect on the body and the appearance. This usually notes an alternative appearance. So Uranus in the first or Aquarius first. Tattoos, piercings, dyed hair. You might like to do something different with your hair as often as you can. And that's in part because Uranus rules Aquarius in my opinion, as a modern astrologer, which opposes Leo. Leo deals in the hair. So people with Uranus influence can also have really prominent hair, and that can include a shaved head, a buzz cut, you know, doing all types of different stuff. But usually there's an alternative appearance here. And this can lead to a really unique body and a really unique look as well. So this can note like a unibrow, for example, rocking some type of trait or characteristic that even in some ways might be considered unconventionally attractive, but you rock it and you make it work and you don't give in to like style norms basically. So this can also note, especially if you are like a woman, for example, choosing not to shave, that's a way this can manifest. Just living life by your own terms, not caring. This can also note wide set eyes. So having almost like alien-like features, that's another thing that can happen here. Now, in terms of colors, so Venus in Aquarius, this could apply to you, Sun in Aquarius, Aquarius 5th house, Uranus in the 5th, neon colors, bright colors, hot colors, perfect. Electric colors, so electric blue, electric yellow, electric purples, neon pink, neon green. Those are great. Colors that look like they would light up the sky, colors that kind of embody electricity and lightning. Let's talk about the sun's effect on the body, which is the ruler of Leo. So people have prominent sun Leo influence, Leo Mars, Leo sun, Leo rising, sun in first. This usually notoriously creates a cat-like appearance. So the hair, the mane, very important. And this again operates on a spectrum. So you can have very full, lush hair. You could also have a shaved head, a buzz cut. It's not uncommon, especially for men, Leo men. They can bald earlier on in life. They can be bald by the time they're like in their early 30s, late 20s. It's not uncommon. The scalp is just a prominent feature of the body and it's very noticeable. So that can manifest in a lot of different ways. Now this can also lead to really prominent smile lines. It's kind of like that part of a cat's face right around their like mouth or whatever. Another thing you can see here are freckles, which is like where the whiskers come out of. Usually a very cute, prominent nose. It might even be kind of like a wide set nose, like a bulbous nose, for example. Those are all things that you can see here with the Leo energy. Now, it's worth noting too, Leo, the sun's presence, it does lean in favor of lighter features. So blonde hair, strawberry blonde, red hair. However, obviously there are millions of people born under the Leo sun who have darker features and darker hair. So that kind of lighter style might just manifest in terms of the clothes they choose to wear and the colors they gravitate towards. So good colors aesthetically for Leo energy, Leo Venus, Leo Mars, Leo 5th, Sun in 5th, golds, yellows, oranges, warm colors like that, royal, regal colors, but specifically, you know, leaning in favor of golds, not so much the silver. So that's a way that that can manifest if you are born with darker features. Now, Neptune is a really tricky one, okay? Neptune is a very elusive planet, so the effect it has on the body is very strange and mysterious and at times undescribable. So if you have Neptune in the first or Pisces first, this can note a shape-shifting appearance. Same with having Neptune in the 5th or Pisces 5th house. This could note an appearance that changes frequently, so you can definitely have that alternative expression where tattoos, frequently dyeing your hair, frequently getting piercings, frequently changing your wardrobe, going through a lot of stylistic changes throughout your life. But sometimes, and also this can include weight fluctuation as well, but sometimes it really is just a matter of illusion and you might truly just look very different any given day without even doing anything that is seemingly different. So other people might see you at 12 p.m. on a Monday and you look one way, and then they see you maybe that night and you just look so different and no one can really understand why. So there's a lot of factors involved, like obviously certain things like lighting can change the way we look, but there's something about that Neptune influence that can really make you a shapeshifter and make it so that even other people who see you frequently might not even be able to remember what you look like in their head. You're just an enigma basically. So it's really hard for people to pinpoint you and understand the way that you look and also the way that you are, but that's a different conversation for a whole different video. So that can happen here, but usually people with prominent Neptune, despite their shape-shifting elusive quality, they tend to have kind of like a girl boy next door look. They have a look that is traditionally kind of like trustworthy. So you might just innately, if you're with someone who has Neptune in the first or Pisces first, you might just innately trust them. They tend to have a compassionate, sensitive, sweetheart look to them. So they kind of express that sense of empathy or, intuition. That's another one. So people that have that Neptune influence going on tend to be very intuitive. But again, another conversation for another time. Neptune does very well with blue colors and pastels aesthetically. So people with Pisces Venus, people with Pisces Mars, Pisces Sun, Pisces 5th, pastels, really light purples, periwinkles, light blues, light pinks, light yellows. It makes me think of kind of like an Easter egg. Those types of colors, like that kind of light tie-dye color. Really good for people with Pisces influence. Now, Mars has a really nice influence on the body, mostly because Mars just literally rules the body, and Mars is ruler of Aries. So having Mars in the first, or an Aries ruled first, or having an Aries Mars, Aries Sun in some cases, usually notes a very strong body. So a fit body, a healthy body, a muscular body. Mars in first, especially these people, and also in the 6th house of health, these people might be very adamant about their workout routine, their diet. It's not, in a lot of cases, it's not as strict as Pluto can be, but it definitely could get there. I mean, you know what I mean, if you don't have moderation. But for the most part, these people just really like to take care of their bodies. So that's really nice. And also there's added emphasis to the head, specifically the forehead. So Mars in some cases can lead to like migraines or headaches in an unfavorable scenario, but sometimes this just notes having like a big forehead. In terms of style and aesthetics, red is a great color for the Aries influence. So someone with Venus in Aries, Mars in Aries, Sun in Aries, 5th house Aries, Mars in the 5th, red is a great color. It just exudes passion. And you could venture into like other warmer colors that represent like fiery energy, like orange and yellow and gold. That's like not really, and even pinks in some cases, that's not off the table, but red especially is like a power color for Aries. Now the last planet we are going to talk about is Mercury. So Mercury, ruler of Gemini and Virgo. Mercury influence on the body is also pretty weird because Mercury has such an impact on our health. So because of its impact on our health, in turn, it can really impact what we look like. Now, typically Mercury notes a thinner figure, and part of that is because Mercury has a pretty big effect on our nervous system and our hormones, our metabolism. So depending on what's going on, it could be hard to gain or lose weight, similar to that Jupiter influence. But usually this notes a thinner figure. It could note being even like kind of petite. You might be kind of, like bony. Your bones might be a little bit obvious there. This can also note, in a lot of cases, kind of like a frailer, more fragile appearance, which kind of goes back to being a little bit petite. This can also note blotchy skin, very pink, rosy skin. So your emotions, the way that you feel might really reflect on your face and on your cheeks. So if you're feeling embarrassed or bashful, your cheeks can start to show. Your emotions are really worn on your face and the way that you're feeling and what you're thinking. Now with Mercury influence, there's very much a twinkle in these people's eyes. So Gemini rising, Virgo rising, Mercury in the 5th, usually there's also like a Mercury ruled Venus. There's something very twinkly and doe-eyed about these individuals. They might even look a little bit naive. They also tend to have a very curious expression to them. Now, sometimes with the Virgo, it ventures a little more on resting bee face, like a little serious, they might look judgmental. For the Gemini, it might be a little more curious and they might have more of a whimsical expression. Now, in terms of colors and stylistic like aesthetics, this applies to, really this is gonna apply a little bit more to someone who has like Gemini, Venus, and Mars, but Virgo can definitely be lumped into this, although Virgo might be a little more on like the muted side or the earth tones. But typically for that Mercury influence, really, really good with sparkly clothes, glitter, metallics, silvers. Silvers are amazing here. They're very reflective and they can increase the intuition of someone who has a lot of Mercury influence. So silvers, glitter, metallics, sparkles. Also clothes that are, what's the word I'm looking for? Like opals. They have that like luminescent kind of almost like that watercolor look to them. Also really good here. Now, when it comes to aspects, because those also play a really significant role, you really want to look at Venus, Mars, and then take those two planets and look at what their aspects are with other planets. So and using like this guide to help you understand and interpret that. So Mars in aspect to Jupiter, for example, fuller features, taller. Mars in aspect to Moon, also fuller features, curvier, wider, rounder features. Mars in aspect to Uranus, an alternative appearance, an alternative look, a unique body. Mars in aspect to Saturn, that could note kind of like sharper features, but there might also be like some immunity issues there that can affect the way that you look. There might be some skin concerns. So you want to take, and Venus in aspect to these things can mostly influence the aesthetics of what someone looks like, the colors they choose to wear, the clothes they choose to wear. So you want to take Mars and Venus in terms of aspects and look at the other planets there in aspect to, and that will really help you understand more about the body and the aesthetics and the style. But for the most part, those are kind of the basics and the generalizations. There's definitely a lot more to be explored and said on this topic, but I just kind of wanted to go over some, some of like the framework of how these things operate. So let me know what you think. Feel free to comment and let me know what aspects you have and how you feel they've affected your appearance. Let me know your stylistic choices, your colors of choice, and also like and subscribe if you feel so inclined. I will be making more videos. I'm just kind of getting my channel started. And I also have my contact information in the description for those of you who are interested in receiving a reading.